If you look at film overall, it's been over $100 million have gone to independent filmmakers through Kickstarter in the past 4 years. Over 9,000 films have been funded. And they've had a lot of success. There's a short film called Innocente that raised funds last year. And a couple weeks ago, it won an Oscar for Best Documentary Short. There have been 6 films funded on Kickstarter that have been nominated for Academy Awards before. This is the first one that won. This is huge. It's huge. It's amazing for them. Amazing. It said in 2012, 10% of the films at Sundance had raised money on Kickstarter. That was true again this year. You can see the list here. A lot of really, really good films there. And here at South by this year, over 25% of the movies that are screening were funded on Kickstarter. We have 2 full screens of films here. One of them, of course, being The Pirate Bay, which you should see if you have not already. So these films are getting funded, and they're finding support, and they're getting eyeballs, but they're also being recognized by curators and the people who lead the film world, which is really, really cool. The other side of creative independence is that you have this creative responsibility. And I think that's a thing that people are asking a lot of questions about with Kickstarter. You give people the freedom to go out there and take their ideas to the public and see what people think. But what does that ultimately mean? Not everyone is going to be good at following through. Some people are going to fuck up. What does that mean? And it's a good question, and it's something that we have to think about. And when I think about that creative responsibility, I think of there being 3 things that are really important to think about. One is accountability. When you think about making something through a traditional channel, there is a layer in between you and your audience. You're ultimately beholden to a studio or to your record label or whoever. There's intermediaries that protect you from a lot of the harder things. You don't have to think about, distribution and packaging and things like that. But in exchange for not having to think about that, they take ownership and a lot of control, and there's a trade-off that you have to make. Here you are going directly to the public, and there's a lot that comes with that. So why don't you tell us about your film?
In 2008, I started shooting this film about the Pirate Bay founders. I was super fascinated about the 3 hackers that had this really sort of FU attitude towards the media corporations, and built this site based on the idea that people should be able to share stuff online. I filmed them during the trials for around 4 years in Sweden, and one of the things that I really thought was important with this project was that I released the film online for free. And then I was thinking a lot about how to finance a film with that sort of idea, and during the process, I went to my traditional financing institutions in Sweden. We have both some regional institutions, and then we have some the state TV called SVT. But in the beginning, I got a lot of doors slammed in my face. Actually, I did get a little bit of money, but to start shooting the film. But at one point, one of these hackers that I was stalking told me about this new platform, and he told me about crowdfunding, and I'd never heard about the concept, and I thought it was fascinating, so I decided to try it. One of the stories in the film was that Gottfried Svartholm Var, the original founder of the Pirate Bay, was this prodigious encryption hacker. He decided to move to Cambodia because when he got convicted in 2009, he sort of lost his beliefs, I think, in the Swedish justice system. So he didn't show up for the appeal trial. But so I was following my story and went to Cambodia to actually to get Gottfried into the film. But also I was thinking, since I was there, I was thinking that maybe I should try this Kickstarter campaign out, because I had gotten this tip. People told me that it's not so important to do a long Kickstarter campaign, which I thought was like crucial. I thought the longer the better, but they told me no, that's not so important. It's more important that you sort of connect your campaign to something that's significant for your project. So I decided to launch my campaign 1 month before the Court of Appeal hearings started. That would sort of give me and my audience a goal to work towards. So I went to Cambodia to try to get Gottfried into my film, and simultaneously, throw together this campaign. As it turned out, Gottfried was totally uninterested in being part of my story. So instead, I focused on doing my campaign. So I went there and I shot this movie, and we wrote a lot of texts. And my Finsta, the street artist, a good friend of mine that I was there with, did a lot of graphics. We did a trailer and stuff like that, and we sort of built this blog around the actual project. It was just really, really exciting to sit on that balcony and just, after an hour or so, the inbox just started going like darn, 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 just like that. It was just crazy. I had to go into my mail inbox settings and change the sound so it went ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching instead. It was just mad. In the first 3 days, we raised $25,000, and it was from ordinary people like you and us. I think the average amount was around $28, which I think is more or less like what Kickstarter backers seem to be willing to pay. I think the reason that we got this traction, or the reasons we got this traction, was that we had like an ace up our sleeve, because the Pirate Bay guys had given us the opportunity to use their doodle, as they call it, their front page. And since the Pirate Bay is so huge, when you put their stuff up on their site, you can direct a huge amount of traffic to Kickstarter's website. And I'm not sure if we crashed your servers, but I know that you were like, wow, it's crazy. It was quite mad, and at the same time, there was a lot of press all over the world, and I had sort of working quite alone with my project, and I wasn't used at all to working with social media and stuff like that. Despite the fact that I'm doing a film about technology and disruptive distribution, I don't come from the internet, so to speak. I was actually something of a technophobe, and that was a really sort of tumultuous ride for me. In those 30 days that we did our campaign, we managed to raise around $51,000 from around 1,700 backers in over 60 countries.
So if you launched your project a month before the Court of Appeals hearing, if you see the film, and you should see the film, it's great. That's about the halfway point in the film.
Yeah.
So you did that while you're still shooting and following them.
Yes.
So how did launching the project at that moment, how did the funding at that moment, how did that change the film or what you're doing, or maybe not at all?
Well, no, it definitely helped me. I think my film was mainly financed by traditional Scandinavian film institutes and 6 TV networks from Europe, public broadcasters. And the Kickstarter, the 51,000 was 7 or 8% or so of the total budget. So I'm not saying that I could have realized this film without traditional funding. This film was funded with a hybrid model, but I do think that having the sort of statistics, share Google stats from my Kickstarter campaign when 500,000 people came to my site from all over the world. I just slapped that in the face of all these commissioners and TV stations saying like, look, I have proof. You have an audience in your country. Look at this. All these people want to support me. There is much less risk supporting my film for you guys because you already have an audience. It's here. It's documented, And that was an amazing feeling for me, since I had sort of been talking to a lot of TV commissioners and networks were slightly older generation, and they, the year before when I'd been pitching my film, it was just like, why would my country want to show a film about Swedish hackers? What does it mean to my audience? They couldn't really grasp that. So I used the statistics and sort of, just that interaction to take that to the traditional financiers, and I found that I could actually leverage that, and I could negotiate more.